Hey, I'm Steve,
And I'm Steve.
and this is the Steve and Steve Show.
Hello, everyone. This is we're going to do an introduction for our next video. We had some technical difficulties when we did record it, so we're going to do the introduction of it right now. Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us give us a little bit of a summary of what is on this video that's coming.
If I can remember, because we did that quite a while ago. And I'm also supposed to move around a lot more because people say I'm animated enough in here, so I'm going to start doing that. If I start to rock and stuff like that, I apologize in advance. We were talking about, what were we talking about?
Money.
Money. But not just money like, okay, you pay at the cash register some money, you go and you invest some money, you put money in your savings account, but what is money? Because a lot of people know those first three, but a lot of people don't know like the 5 components of what makes something money, not just a currency or a means of exchange. And that's what we go into, and I'm not going to give you all of it. That's what we go into in that video. It's really a good one, worth watching, a little longer than some of the others, but let's face it, money's kind of important.
Yep. There's a lot of good nuggets. We think you'll enjoy it. So enjoy this video.
Yep. We have a good one for you today. We really do. Steve, I think I'm just going to start this one out with the question, what is money? What is money?
Money, like the U.S. dollar money.
Well, money, I mean, yeah, sure, like the US dollar, but nowadays I think people just take for granted here, especially in the United States, the idea that the US dollar is money. And is it really money? Oh, and by the way, stick around on this whole show, because at the end of this, we're gonna talk about something that ties into all of this that you've probably heard of, called Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. So stick around for the end of this on this. But
I'm looking forward to that part.
yeah, I mean,
so money. I really don't know what money is because drivers don't keep more than $20 on them, and I think today with the way banks are and credit cards and debit cards, and I'd be shocked if I had a couple bucks actual physical dollar bills in my wallet right now because it's too easy to use the credit card stuff.
okay, so is a credit card money?
No, it's plastic. Right?
Okay, it's plastic. And a paper dollar bill, that's... Well, have you read what one of those dollar bills say on them? I wonder if I have one in my pocket.
I have.
No, I gave that away as a tip. Darn it, I don't have one.
I happen to
You have a dollar bill?
because we had a mastermind on Saturday, and my wife was nice enough to give me money to
All
get
right.
a cup of coffee.
There. A $1 bill. And
From
on this...
United States,
I'm sorry, all of our international. We have about... I don't know how many, but we've got a lot of international potential.
We have folks from your side of the
Oh,
family.
from Peru.
From Peru. I have some friends that are in the Philippines. And, and I know there's some Canadians that watch us, so we have some international
Steve and Steve show is now international.
Yeah.
So we apologize to the international folks. We're talking right here about this U.S. dollar, but I think as we get a little further into this, you're going to find out that.
And since we're talking about that, if tell us where you're from. Go in the comments.
That's great.
And say, if you're in the United States, tell us what state you're in or the city. But if you're outside the United States, tell us the city and the country that you're residing in. Or if you're a U.S. citizen that's residing outside the country, let us know that too. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we'd love to know that. Well, anyway, back to this. The United States of America. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And it says it is a Federal Reserve note. What is a Federal Reserve note, Steve?
So this dollar bill is actually an IOU. So it's not...
It's a loan.
It's not real money.
Not a loan. It's an IOU.
It's an IOU. So it's the $1 value, right? Because that's what this is. When someone holds it, it's basically an IOU from the United States government that they would give you whatever a $1 value,
Right. So
whatever that represents.
So $1, I mean, I've heard rumors about the fact that the Federal Reserve, and backed by the United States government, the Federal Reserve is a private organization. It's got a charter from Congress, but I've heard rumors that they print these things, like kind of when
Yeah.
they need to, want to.
Well, it's interesting, right? The Federal Reserve actually creates how many of these there are,
Okay.
right, in their ledger, their computer system, whatever. But the U.S. Mint actually produces these,
And prints them.
right?
All right. So let's go to something like the country of Venezuela. And I know my experience. My wife is from Peru, and when we were married in Peru a while ago, I'm not going to give the exact age here, but 30 years ago, that bill that was there was called a INTE. And that while we were there, in the couple years that we were back and forth in Peru, it changed to a nuevo sol, to a sol, and then a nuevo sol. And I mean, it went and inflated to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. In Venezuela, we're talking millions and millions of bolivars inflating. How does inflation work on these dollars? Why does a monetary currency or this currency inflate?
That's a deep question.
It is a deep question. It is.
And I'm not sure I could answer that
All right.
question.
Well, let me give it.
But let's look at it from a, I don't know, maybe you can answer that in a little bit, because that one I don't know. I'd have to do some thinking on that one. But I do know that in 1971, President Nixon took us off the gold standard. What that meant was that for so many, what we call U.S. dollars, made up an ounce. Like they took 1 ounce and said this 1 ounce is equivalent to
$20, I believe.
Was it $20?
Yeah.
So 20 of these, right? So that was the ounce.
30. I think it was
And so
30.
when he disconnected us from that, then the Federal Reserve can create as many in their computer system, as many as they want, without it being tied to anything. But what I find interesting is that a lot of the countries out there, when they go to the International Money Fund, that's kind of more. It's kind of like a world centralized place where they agree what the value of the different currencies are against each other, right? So I think the last time I checked, it was like 60 or 70% that the U.S. dollar was in there, and so other countries tied their currency to the U.S. dollar, right? So if the U.S. dollar is going up or down, theirs goes up and down with it.
Okay, so let's go back for a second though to that gold, because gold is gold money. Is gold money?
Gold is money.
Okay, and gold is money. Why?
Well, it has the characteristics. That word. We're live on video. So.
That's right. Characteristics.
Stumbling over words are part of the deal. So we were talking earlier, and it sounded like you had a good grasp of those
5 characteristics.
The 5 items that make up what true money is. Because this is an IOU. It's a low or a note saying that it has value, and what that value is, it's your trust in the U.S. government.
Well, and so I go back to like in 1960, let's say in the 60s, when McDonald's was really a big deal at the time in terms of food. You could buy a hamburger for about 20 cents. Don't Google me on that, but it's real close to that. About 20 cents to buy a hamburger in 1960. Anybody know what today you buy just a cheeseburger at McDonald's for?
Well, they have the dollar menu.
So it's $1, all right?
Not sure if it's on.
So it is on there.
Okay.
Not that I've eaten it, but it is on there. So $1 for a hamburger today, when it was 20 cents in 1960. Does that mean that hamburger today, with all of our technology and our efficiencies and everything that we've learned over whatever the 50 years or so, 50, 60 years, that somehow the hamburger is more expensive to make the bread, the burger, is it more expensive to make it?
Well, I think it's relative, right? I don't know.
It's not more expensive to, I'll answer that.
Okay.
It's not more expensive to make. It's that this isn't the same value as it was back then. And that goes to why in the heck is this not the same value then as it is now? And that comes from that printing. Because let's look at
being disconnected from true
that
money.
gold,
True
right?
money,
So
right?
when it was connected to gold, this thing had to be, okay, here's $35 worth of gold for every, and that's not exactly right, but there's a $35 worth of gold in an ounce of gold, and this was, let's say, 1/35 of an ounce of gold. And so it was tied to the gold price. And the gold price didn't fluctuate as much because of the 5 properties that we have here of what true money is. When you've got, let me just give you what those 5 properties are,
Okay.
right? You've got scarcity, okay? So gold is scarce. It's not something that you can just come up with. You have to go and work at it, dig, mine, spend a lot of money to go in and get that gold out of the earth, right? So that means that there is some sort of a not exactly fixed supply, but certainly a more fixed supply than just being able to print whatever
It's
you
limited.
want.
It's limited.
All right. Okay. It's got to be transferable. Now, this is transferable. I can say, I would like that ring, and I'm going to give you this dollar.
Mhm.
And you say, okay, I agree, and I can transfer that and get it from you. I could do the same thing with gold. I could give you a gold nugget and get that from you.
Okay.
It has to be fungible. What the heck does fungible mean? Well, without going deeply into what fungibility is, it's a characteristic of it. It has to be able to be broken up into denominations, but still remain the same.
Still keep its
value. So if I've got 1 ounce of gold and I broke that up into 20, 1/20 of that would still remain the whatever the 1 ounce of gold is divided by 20.
That's not the same as if I buy a 6-pack of beer at the liquor store. It's like, I don't know what 6-pack of beer was, like $10.
Right.
But if I go to the stadium and buy a 1 bottle of beer,
It's $6.
like, that's not the same.
No, it's not the same thing.
Okay.
No, it isn't the same. So
maybe location has something to do with that.
right. So that's kind of fungibility. But fungibility does lead into something else, durability. So it's got to be something that's durable. It can't be.
How many times have you been goofing around a little bit and you accidentally tear one of these up?
Right. And if you tear it up, well,
it's still technically you could tape it back together, take it to the bank, and they'll exchange it, right? But there does get to a point where maybe it doesn't last in a fire.
yeah, exactly. It'll all
Right?
burn up.
Where a gold coin has potential of lasting through a fire. I don't know.
Or even if it didn't last in terms of the fire, it might melt down the gold coin, but it would still melt down into gold. It doesn't just disappear.
Right.
And so if you found the gold there, it would still be able to be put together into a store of value. This would go away, for example. Transferable. We already said transferable. Durable. No, we said
We did
durable.
that.
We said that it's
So it's
strong.
store of value.
Store of value. It's got to have a solid store of value. So gold, thousands of years, gold has been worth something to many civilizations. This is called fiat currency, right?
Right.
Why is it called fiat? Do you happen to know the Latin term fiat?
Fake.
I wish it were. Fiat actually means by decree. So I decree this, or by decree, because it came about in England. They would decree that this is the value. So there is not fake, but a faith in whatever centralized organization is backing this. In this the case in the U.S. dollar, it would be the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So we have faith that the Federal Reserve, the U.S. government, is going to back the fact that I say, Steve, I'm going to give you this dollar. You're going to give me that dozen eggs.
Well, it's one of our mentors, Robert Kiyosaki, wrote
Yes.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. He actually talks about money in one of his books, and I don't know which one it was. But if you haven't read The Rich Dad Poor Dad, go read that. It's a good book. But he talks about his service in the Vietnam War. and he had some money that he wanted to get exchanged, and he couldn't. They weren't accepting the U.S. dollar that he had, but he was able to. He had a gold coin on him or something like that, and that was the item that they were willing to take.
Oh, well, there you go.
So it was kind of interesting, right? Because that would have been during the time that the U.S. dollar was tied
to the gold,
right? 71, maybe just right on that same
or
time
60,
period.
late 60s. Yeah.
So 71 was when Nixon took it off.
Right, but Kiyosaki might have been there in the late 60s.
Right,
there.
right.
So
it's interesting on that, but that's just a side story of how.
But I think that brings up a really good point about the fact that that gold is very transferable then to not just to between you and I, but it's something where if I go to another country, that gold is still going to carry its value somewhere. Whereas this dollar, there are places, you'll go to places in Europe and you can't spend $1. Lots of places, actually not just in Europe, around the world, where you can't spend $1.
Mm-hmm.
And try going from Venezuela, let's say, over to the U.S. and bring bolivars if Maduro would let you out of Venezuela.
At my house, I have a $1 million Zimbabwe bill.
How is that working for you today over at King Soopers or one of the stores?
Well, I don't. It's more of a like a social piece, right? That we can talk about.
10 million.
One. I think it's a $1 million.
Wow. Wow.
But so let's talk about the cryptocurrencies, because that comes into play, and people want to know what's a cryptocurrency, and are they truly, is it a scam,
right?
Or is it is it somebody made up something and you're trading them for this one note that's backed by the U.S. government for something that's backed by maybe a company? How do those cryptocurrencies work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and if you think about it, even though we're playing around with this $1 bill here, as you said, a lot of times you don't find people carrying around cash anymore.
Right.
I mean, you go on credit card, you go on Venmo, you go on a transfer from bank to bank, you'll go how many different ways that money is transferred back and forth from people, and not so often that you use a dollar bill here.
Right.
And so a lot of times people will bash, say, Bitcoin, because, well, that's just that fake money out there in the cybersphere that's not really existing anywhere. The truth of the matter is most of the money that is exchanged, the dollars that are exchanged in our world, are digital.
Mm-hmm.
You pay your bills online. So really, from a digital standpoint, most of our money is also cyber money out there. So what is the difference, Steve, I think you asked, between, say, a cryptocurrency and dollars that are digital dollars on there? And I would say this, there's a huge difference in terms of, there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there, and I mean a lot. I personally would probably be considered what's called a Bitcoin maximalist to some degree. There are certain coins that are in cryptocurrency that I also like outside of Bitcoin, but really Bitcoin is the main one. And the key thing about Bitcoin is it is decentralized. So
what does that mean?
What do I mean about decentralized?
Yeah.
I mean, this dollar is most definitely centralized. Why?
Because it has the Federal Reserve.
Federal Reserve and the U.S. government. What if the U.S. government decided to just print $1 trillion? Could they do that?
They
just did. The repo.
Wait, they just did it again.
That's right. So when they decide they want to, they can just print it. And think about that for a minute, people, okay? That the U.S. government can print money. And to your point earlier today, you mentioned that a lot of countries peg their value of their currency to the US dollar because we don't really have a gold standard anymore. Right. So the US dollar is the thing that they'll peg their value to in many different currencies out there. And if the US government can just go ahead and print dollars, does that give us a pretty hefty advantage in the worldwide market?
it's interesting, right? Because I know from my own perspective, the U.S. dollar is a scarcity.
Meaning the cash? What do you mean by
Yeah, in my wallet.
in your wallet? Okay. Well, especially since we
But
just
but
took
so
that
how does
loan.
that? I mean, so like you said, that the Bitcoin is decentralized.
Yeah.
There's other stuff out there, right? I think isn't like Facebook creating their own?
Yeah, they're
currency?
creating one, or we think maybe they are, called Libra.
And that's centralized because
Very
Facebook has it,
centralized.
right?
Yeah, Facebook could decide tomorrow, after, let's say that Facebook comes out with Libra, and let's look at some of those properties there. Would it be transferable? Yes. If you're on Facebook and you have a friend on Facebook and you wanted to pay them something, you could use your Libra coin, pay them if that Libra coin had value, because people say it has value, and you could pay them with it.
But you have to pretty much put your full trust and faith in
It would
Facebook.
be full trust in Mark Zuckerberg. But not only that, what if a government said, no, you are not going to put Libra coins in Facebook in our country? Could they
Right.
stop them? Absolutely.
Yeah. What about why isn't the U.S. government? I mean, this has a serial number on it. So why couldn't they just create like this as a?
They could, and again, that would be how different would it be than this? Because what the U.S. government would be then is the central authority over that money.
Mhm.
So let's go back for a second to that decentralized. When Bitcoin came out, and without going into the whole history of it, there's tons of books out there and YouTube videos and things. In fact, I'd highly recommend on Bitcoin, for example, a book called The Bitcoin Standard. It's somewhat esoteric in terms of its financial history and all, but then there's another one called The Little Bitcoin Book. Both of those books are fantastic to learn. The Little Bitcoin Book is pretty darn small and really easy to read, so that one might be the one you want to do first.
I
But
think I read the other one, and it's a good one if you're having trouble to go to sleep.
Okay. Well, I actually love it, but I hear what you're saying. It goes in pretty darn deep into the thing. But let's go back for a second to that concept of decentralized, because that is probably the most important thing that really differentiates this cryptocurrency called Bitcoin from, say, a digital currency, or even something that Facebook does with their Libra.
Yeah.
That means when it is decentralized, that there is no authority that controls the Bitcoin that are out there. It's also scarce, because when Bitcoin was created, and by the way, it was created in 2008 started by a white paper in 2008 by a gentleman or a group or a person, a woman. We don't know exactly who that person is, named Satoshi Nakamoto. And then it came live in early January of 2009. And as that started to gain more and more acceptance out on the network, it's all done by what we call nodes that are out on a network that are peer-to-peer. There isn't some centralized server. And so all of these nodes and I'm explaining this very quickly, so I don't, this isn't a video completely about going into how Bitcoin works, but I want you to get the concept of decentralized, because in the end, this is built up over the last 11 years, this network, to the point where there is zero central authority on the Bitcoin network. That means that some government organization, nobody can shut it down. If you said, you know what, we decide we're going to sue Bitcoin, well, there's nobody to sue. There is no one place. So it keeps going.
And my understanding is that there's going to be a limit of the number of Bitcoins that are going to be available.
You're right. Actually, there already is. A total of 21 million Bitcoins will ever be mined. In fact, Satoshi Nakamoto did a concept of mining similar to what gold is to get that scarcity in there. But he did better than gold, because let's face it, if we had an asteroid that was a golden asteroid that hit the Earth, that would throw a whole bunch of inventory of gold into our stockpile, which would deflate the value of gold. In the case of Bitcoin, there is no way to go above this 21 million coins. And so that puts out there a limited supply. And by the time that we actually get to the whole 21 million out there, it's just going to be those circulating around that go between us. So the value of Bitcoin, arguably, a lot of people think that this value could go real strong.
Okay. Well, let's do this since we're going longer than normal.
Okay.
I think we could actually do a whole topic just on Bitcoin. We probably spent a good 10 minutes on it.
That's true. We did tease them saying that we would do.
We did. We gave them a very good. Don't you guys think that we did a good job on the topic? So definitely covered a lot, right? We covered what the U.S. dollar is or isn't, and what the 5 points of money. And just real quick, so we have the 5 characteristics.
Yep.
Of money is store of value, scarcity, fungibility, transferable, and durable. So that's what makes up money, and obviously the U.S. dollar, where the U.S. dollar, the first one that I think of that it isn't, is it's not durable.
I would totally agree, and I want to throw in there, even though there's 5 like that, the idea of centralized or decentralized, and also the idea of privacy or not privacy. I mean, when I hand you this, it's just between you and I.
Yeah.
The same.
So
thing.
I think what we'll need to do is do another topic on that, because I think there's the belief that criminals are using Bitcoin and getting away with it, but it's really not that easy for them. It's actually working against them. Right?
It actually does work against it. In fact, this beautiful thing here is the most used currency for criminal enterprises.
Yeah, interesting.
It's anonymous.
Very interesting.
So that's money, right? What is money?
Yeah.
I mean, you ought to be thinking about what is money. And I think we ought to really seriously. In fact, there's another great book about the Fed. I just want to throw it out there.
All right. Real quick, and then we gotta get people to subscribe and like, and then we gotta close this out.
The Creature from Jekyll Island.
That's the book?
That's the book.
The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yeah. You got to go look it up and get it. It's fascinating. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. You want to close us out?
And now we're closing out. We sure do appreciate you guys coming here and listening to us. I hope you're enjoying these. And if you do, or even if you don't, subscribe, like, repost, send everywhere. Get us out there, because the more places we go on this, why...
It's encouraging when we see someone subscribe or do a comment or like. It does encourage us to keep going.
So we're going to keep going. God willing, or the creek will.
That's right. So thanks again. Have a great night.